So allegedly, a peace deal, a 19-point peace deal, has been agreed upon by the Zelensky administration that had been drafted by the Trump administration. Trump promised on day one he would end the Russo-Ukrainian war, and as it turns out, it was a lot harder than he thought originally. Anybody who studied that area would have known that it's a lot more difficult than just trying to end it on day one. You got a competition between the West and Russia over Eastern Europe. I mean, Russia traditionally wants to push its borders as far west as possible for security reasons. And NATO, the globalists, want to push it as far eastward to try to bully Russia into basically exploitation by the this corporationocracy, if you want to call it. And I mean, it's an impasse. I mean, what do you do with an impasse? You try to make compromises. You try to have communication, have some kind of understanding. From a philosophic standpoint, neither one of them are really right. Russia is an old school type of tyranny, you'd see in the old empires. You have something like a monarch or a strongman, which is Putin. And then in the West, we have this nihilistic, globalist type of tyranny where, you're not allowed to do anything. You don't have free speech. Essentially, you're just as much of a slave in Western Europe as you are in Russia, in principle. Arguably, it's actually worse from a cultural standpoint because at least in Russia, they don't, get in the way as much in your personal life. Whereas in Western Europe, they do. You can't relate to who you want to. You're not allowed to. I mean, in both sides, you're not allowed to have an opinion, really. I guess it depends on the topic, but But anyway, I digress. So this war has been going on for 4 years, and the Russians, from the Russian standpoint, it's been going on since the Minsk agreement was violated. That Russians in Ukraine were not respected, their rights were not respected, and basically you had the NATOization of Ukraine, and Russia saw that as a threat, which is correct. It'd be like if Mexico was allied with Russia and China, and they were building military bases and putting missiles and were training their troops to fight Americans. We would say that that's a major threat. We would invoke the Monroe Doctrine, and we would probably go to war with Mexico. And that's what Russia has done in essence. On the other side of this, the West, the argument is that Ukraine is a sovereign country. They have the right to do whatever they want to do. If they want to join NATO, they can join NATO. The problem is that lacks context. You got to look at the wider context. Okay, yeah, you're free to do that, but what are the consequences? There's always consequences to everything you do. Is it worth it? Is it worth putting Ukraine in NATO? The only thing that does is try to back Russia into a corner. Basically, it's there to checkmate Russia. That's the only reason why. Ukraine does not need to be in NATO. Ukraine is either the first or second most corrupt country in Europe, depends on what information you're looking at. And its territory is not completely integral. You have separatist movements in Ukraine, and I believe, according to NATO, that's a big no-no. You're not supposed to join NATO when you have separatist movements in your country. So a peace deal supposedly was agreed upon between the United States and Ukraine. They're going to bring this to Putin, and we'll see how this goes. Like I've stated before, Russia does not need a peace deal. They don't need one. Ukraine needs one because Ukraine is massively depleted, and the West really needs one, but the globalists don't want one because they want to try to kill as many Russians through Ukraine as possible. So we'll see how this goes. I'll put a link in the description below. It has a post by Trump, and is this, I believe this is X. Oh no, it's Truth Social. One of his Truth Social posts. I'll put a link in the description below. I'm hoping this war will end. I personally know people or knew of people in Russia that had family in Ukraine. Ukrainians and Russians, I mean, government and politics aside, they have a lot of similarities, and it's not uncommon for both sides to have family in the other country. Just to give you an idea how close this is. Again, it's like the United States and Mexico. There's a lot of people living in the United States who are American citizens that have family in Mexico. So imagine if we went to war with Mexico, and you have people who are Mexican origin and they have family in that country. It's not really a good thing at all. So, you know, again, this falls on the feet of policymakers. I mean, when you're in that position, you have a responsibility to really carefully examine the consequences of the policies that you draft. And unfortunately, the people that were pushing this probably knew full well what they were doing, and they just don't care. So anyway, I'll put a link in the description below of the article that I'm referencing.